Have you ever had someone's words just like hit you out of nowhere, like a sledgehammer? Maybe it was a text, an email, a comment, something sharp, condescending, or just downright nasty. Maybe it was an attack on your character, your choices, your integrity. And in that moment, it stings. Even if you know better, even if you recognize that this person is speaking from their own pain, it still hurts. I had one of those moments today. I was in the middle of my morning and just doing life. And out of the blue, I received a text that was, well, let's just say it wasn't kind. And, it was funny because it wasn't even about the person who was writing it. They were coming to the defense of others, but in a way that was purposefully hurtful, harmful, patronizing. And I laughed. I laughed. And not because it was funny, but because I could see something that I might not have seen years ago. I might not even seen it months ago. I could see what was underneath all of it. I could see through the anger, the disappointment, the pain, even the shame that they were trying to throw at me. And as wild as it sounds, I could see that at its core, all those words, all that vitriol, all those emotions at the core was love. So, all right, I know, stay with me here. What if all the most negative, painful emotions we experience, whether that's fear, anger, resentment, jealousy, what if all of them were actually love in disguise? Maybe not even love in disguise. Love that's been distorted, that's been twisted, love that's been wounded, love that's been rejected, ignored, or just misunderstood. And I want to be clear when I talk about love that's twisted and harmful people and harmful actions. I want to be clear. This is not about excusing bad behavior. This is not like victim blaming. This is not saying, oh, well, they hurt me because they were just trying to love me in some sort of messed up way. No way. Hell with that. There's no just getting over that. No. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is what if we started shifting the way we interpret these moments of hurt, these moments of what feels like shame and disgrace that has been put on us by someone else. What if instead of immediately internalizing the words and the criticisms and the attacks, we paused and we asked, wait a minute, wait. What if this isn't about me? What if all this that's coming from this other person is about their own love, their own fear, their own pain, just trying to find a voice? Again, it doesn't excuse harmful behavior emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, whatever that is. There is no excuse for that. But what would change for you if you believed that what was happening was someone else's fear trying to find a voice, their love underneath that, trying to come to grips with rejection, disappointment? Would you carry less resentment towards that person? Would you carry less resentment towards yourself? Would you take fewer things personally when you recognize it's not about you? Would you have an easier time letting go? I can't tell you how many mornings I have woken up in the past in a cycle of getting up and coming to grips with the day and then getting in the shower and having this moment that's like, if you ever read George Orwell's 1984, there's this like 15 minutes of hate that they have. And in the story, everyone gathers in a room and because they feel so frustrated at this society, which is so, it's where the term big brother comes from, by the way. Big brother is watching, right? Because they're so regimented and regulated and they're so frustrated, and there's got to be some way to get that out without threatening the government, without destroying society. And so they come up with this, like it was like Saul Goldberg, I mean something very typical like that, right? And he becomes that enemy that everyone's like, oh, he's the scourge on society, blah, 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 blah. Well, I had that 1984 moment, only it wasn't somebody out, it was somebody in my life, my frustrations and my anger. And I just was in this cycle of anger and anger and anger and anger every single morning. As I was actually cleansing my body, waking up, I was flooding myself with anger. And it became part of my identity. And I'm a joyful person. I'm a happy person. As anybody who has ever come in contact with, I know Sarah, who's here. I see you there. I see you, Bill. I see you, Deanna. And happy birthday to you. I'm a joyful, happy person. But it's interesting when we get caught in these cycles and when we allow other people and the hurt and the fear and the shame that they may place on us to define us. Because when we begin to break this and we begin to shift the way we view hurt and harm and reframe it for ourselves, again, not excusing the behavior of someone else who is harmful. And by the way, I think if we're all honest with ourselves, we have been both the perpetrator and the victim, right, of harmful situations. Okay, good. I just want to make sure we're on the same page here, because I'm not trying to preach at you from a soapbox or anything. But maybe when we frame it, and this is a big one, maybe you just start trusting yourself more, because that's what it really comes down to. Confidence isn't just about standing tall and speaking with authority and, your physicality and your voice and your face. I talk about that a lot when it comes to stagecraft and helping entrepreneurs grow their business via stepping on stage. But really, it's just about trusting yourself, trusting your choices, trusting your worth, your value, trusting your ability to navigate the world, even when people throw rocks at you. And baby, when you step into your confidence, aka trusting yourself, and you begin to release the shackles of other people's sugar honey iced tea, and you start coming into what I believe is your divine purpose, what you're here for, however big, however small that might be, whatever that purpose is for you, that thing. And I mean just that thing that makes you feel so good when you do it. Maybe you get paid for it, maybe you don't. Hopefully you do. Hopefully you can find a way to create a source of revenue for it, or you have created a source of revenue in your life that allows you to go over and do this thing that is fulfilling for you. But boy, oh boy, you better believe that when you step into your purpose, you step into your confidence. And this is why more people don't do it. This is why people back away from it, because you're going to trigger the hell out of somebody. You're going to piss somebody off when you step into your thing. And it's wild because it has nothing to do with you. They're going to come for you. They're going to say things about you. They're going to talk to other people about you. They're going to gather up as many people as they can to support their view of you. And they're going to throw rock after rock after rock after rock at you and tell their friends and all the people they know to throw rocks at you over and over and over and over again. Because you're stepping into your greatness, you're stepping into your purpose, your calling, your confidence triggers something in them that is missing, or that they believe is missing. And nothing shakes confidence more than someone attacking you, making you feel like you're less than, like you're wrong, because you're doing this thing and it feels so good, but people are saying terrible things. People are treating you really bad and trying to shove you down. And believe me, ask me how I know. I've been the brunt of more hair jokes than you can even begin to imagine in the early 2000s anyway. I was a late night darling for being just the butt of jokes. Why? Because I put myself out there in front of 30 million people doing what it is that I love to do, and I didn't make any apologies for who I was, what I loved, and how I did my thing. Well, I did apologize once, but go back and look at that. But for doing my thing that I was really good at, that I love, that I still love to do, and they came for me. They came for all of us, by the way. It wasn't just me. But it's really interesting when you feel unworthy for doing what it is that you love. But what if we just said, oh, man, hell with that? What if we flip the script? Instead of letting their words plant the seeds of doubt, what if we just saw their words for what they are? Saw the rocks and all the hate and the jealousy. What if we just saw it for what it really truly is? The projection of their own fears, their own unmet needs, their own wounded love. Think about somebody who's hurt you. I'm not excusing their behavior. I'm not thinking it's right. You know what I'm saying. I think I've made that point. What if what they did was just a projection of the things that they've said about you? Somebody who said some real nasty stuff about you. What if it was just a projection of their own fears that they were trying to put on you so that they didn't have to think about it themselves? What if it was their own unmet need, their own wounded love? What if instead of questioning ourselves when that happened, what if we just simply recognize them for who they are? It doesn't mean you have to engage with them. I didn't engage with this person who texted me this morning. It doesn't mean you need to keep toxic people in your life. Get them gone. But what it does mean, this reframing, it means that you get to take your power back. It means that you don't have to live in the prison of someone else's perception of you. I always think about The Walking Dead. I love pop culture references. I'll make a lot of them. But do you remember that? If you ever watch a show, you remember the episode where, and Lord, I don't remember his name, but he was the gentleman who had the bow staff and who was like, I won't kill anyone. Like he had killed someone. And then after that, he was a man of action, but he would never, ever take another life. I mean, he'd kill some zombies, right? But they're dead anyway, but he refused to take another life. And this guy had gotten a hold of him and put him in a jail cell inside the house because I think he was wild and this guy who ended up being his mentor later on put him in the cell every single night. Put him in the cell every single night. Every single day he was in the cell. And at a certain point, when the hero in the story I'm telling finally got through their rage, their anger, finally recognized their own power and came to peace in themselves, they asked their jailer, hey, let me out. Please let me out. And the person who jailed them said, walk out. What do you mean walk out? You got to unlock the door, man. You got to unlock the cell door. And his jailer said, no, I don't. It was always unlocked. And it hit the man when he had found his peace, when he had finally taken radical responsibility for who he was, what he had done, and ultimately what he had become through the process of living inside of this prison, not only of himself, but that this other person was putting him in. And he realized, I could have walked out of this cell at any point. Ask me how I know. He opened the door. He was at peace with himself. He began to take on a new identity. He began to learn self-defense. That man who was his jailer, who was his torturer, became his mentor. I I'm not saying that that's going to happen in the situation with somebody who's harmed you. More often than not, you just got to let them go, get them gone. But what happens when we take radical responsibility and we own our own narrative? This is the hardest part, taking that responsibility, not for what somebody else did, but for how we interpret it, for the meaning that we assign to it. Because more often than not, we don't get to control what happens to us. Or I should say, we don't always get to control what happens to us, but we always, always, always get to decide the story we tell ourselves about it. And if you tell yourself the story that their words, their actions, their behaviors towards you are proof that you're not good enough, that's a reality that you're going to live in. If you tell yourself the story that their words, their actions, their behaviors towards you are simply their own pain speaking, that it is a mirror of who they are, and that you are just a mirror being held up at them, and they can't stand to look at themselves, but ultimately it doesn't have to do with you. I mean, yes, when there's constructive criticism, take it now, but you know what I'm talking about. When you recognize that those words are simply their own pain speaking, that is also the reality that you'll live in. You get to choose. So today, as I think about this text, I'm choosing to see the message I received not as this dagger that twists and burns in my gut all day, and like a splinter in my mind just sticks and I can't stop thinking about it, but I see it as a mirror, a reflection of that someone else's love that has been twisted by fear, a reflection of my own growth, because a few years ago I might have fallen apart at these words. I might have put on myself a story, an identity based on someone else's perception of my truth. It had nothing to do with me. And I want to challenge you to do the same. Think about the words, the moments, the people that made you doubt yourself. Think about the stories you've been telling yourself about these moments, and ask yourself, what happens if I tell a new story, my story, not one that erases the pain? Pain serves us, not one that pretends it didn't happen. Recognizing and acknowledging that it happened is part of reclaiming our power in the situation, but one that lets you move forward without carrying the weight of someone else's wounds. Because when you stop carrying their weight, you finally get to stand in your own power. Now that we're on the same page, I'll see you center stage. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I'm out.